So when I was growing up, I loved a fairy tale. I don't know if I've said this to you, Stephen, but Princess Bride was one of my favourite
Yeah.
stories, films. And it's all about the hero's journey, isn't it? You have the hero, they come to an obstacle, they find a guide, and ultimately they win the day. And in this live that we're doing today, that guide is Stephen Locke. And Stephen is an amazing coach who I've had the privilege to work with, but also see how he is around other people. And I'd say he's a pretty decent human being as well. So Stephen and I are going to talk about the hero's journey today. And as part of the Hope Sessions, how you can be the hero in your own story going into 2025. So Stephen, thank you for being here with me today.
Well, thank you for that lovely introduction. I feel all warm inside.
That was the aim. Stephen, tell me a bit more about you. So anyone who's listening who doesn't know you, what should be the main thing they should know about you and how you work and what you do?
So my practice is as a coach. I specialize in executive leadership and team coaching, which I trained to do a few years ago. Prior to that, I worked in the health service. I had some national roles there and the software industry. So I've got a bit of a background in management and leadership and stuff like that. But I guess that's all CV type stuff, isn't it? But I love helping to unlock something in people or in teams, but my passion really is in someone, helping them to see that they are stronger than they think they are, that they can achieve more than they think they could, or to help them get a bit clearer on their vision and what it is they want out of life. So that's kind of what I love to do.
And you've built up quite a successful business, I think, in the last year, because you've only just recently come to doing this, haven't you? How did you realise that that's actually where your passion was?
Well, I think like a lot of people in the middle part of life, there's a phrase that I overuse, which is that there are people who've achieved success but lost their way. And if you said to me that, when I was, say, 16 years old, growing up in a small market town in North Yorkshire with not many aspirations, and I didn't have many people around me that had aspirations. It was a nice place to grow up, a nice place to live, but it was quite hard to get out of. There wasn't a natural next city to go to. It wasn't easy to get out of. So people tended to focus in or focus on the boundaries of the town. If you'd said to me then that, in 30 years' time, there's going to be this national pandemic and you're going to be running the IT for a bit of the health service that does all of the research, I would have gone, no, you've mixed me up with somebody else, right? Because I wouldn't have believed that, a kid that I got 7 GCSEs and they were mostly C's, and then I did a B Tech in computing at Scarborough Tech. I just wouldn't have thought that was like in my future at all. I wouldn't have understood it, I don't think. But here's the funny thing, like when I was actually doing that, so just for context, I was the interim Chief Information and Technology Officer for the National Institute of Health Research during COVID. So I helped to coordinate the UK government's research response to COVID.
Which I can't get my head around, but as you say, externally, that sounds like a huge responsibility.
It was. It was crazy. We were doing stuff. We were the only people that had any information in the early stages of the pandemic, right? So the government was desperate because they were doing a lot, and the politics aside, they were doing an awful lot. Nobody knew quite what this thing was or how we could fight against it. And obviously finding a cure was going to take a while. So the only good news in the first few months was, well, we've actually started some clinical trials and we're actually researching some vaccines and stuff like that. And the team that I managed was able to coordinate all the data on that on behalf of the whole of the health service and Public Health England and some other bodies. And we could present it back to the government. And so it was the first insight into any good news. So the stuff that we were doing, we were like hacking together with spreadsheets and late nights. we would then send some data into the Department of Health, and the data would be on the news in the evening. So it was quite nuts. It was really crazy time. But that ended. So that was a very unusual time for everybody, okay? And that ended. And then you stop, I guess, and you look at your life and you go...
Well, that surely must have made you ask some questions of yourself.
Absolutely. And maybe if we bring it back to the hero's journey thing, the obstacle idea.
Yes.
So I thought you described it pretty well, but like the hero's journey is that classic thing in Hollywood films, and it's in like the Iliad, and yeah, it goes on Princess Bride. It's been forever. It's a classic story that you meet someone, you find out a bit about their lives, then an event happens, something happens, and their life is thrown into chaos, or they have to go on a journey to try and rescue something or save something or find something, like The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings, same idea. And then they go on this journey, and they're trying to either... Oh, by the way, have you heard of the heroine's journey? This is a new one for me.
No, I'm assuming it's the same.
Apparently not. So the hero's journey, I think I've used hero's journey to mean both. But
yeah, interchangeable in my mind. A woman can go on a quest and be the hero of her own story, can't she?
Yeah, but it's
tell me about it.
Differentiator is that the hero's journey is to go and do something external. It's kill the dragon, rescue the princess, get the treasure, and bring it back.
Yeah.
The heroine's journey is the inner journey. It's the inside. What do you think about that?
I love that. As you will know that I love that. So it's overcoming something within yourself.
Exactly.
Then become okay.
Yeah.
So how did you find out about that?
I'm a podcast addict. It was probably on not something. I think it was on a podcast. But I'll bring it back to the question that you asked me, which was like at the end of that year, I was the chief information and technology officer for a national job, but it was interim. I was only supposed to do it for a month or two. COVID happened, stayed for a year. I applied for the job and didn't get it. The job that I've been doing.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
even more questions coming up for you then.
Exactly. Like, what am I here for? What is my quest? Like, what am I trying to do? Now, I would just like to say, because there's a possibility that there's people watching this that know that externally, but maybe don't know that I applied for that job. It was the best thing, one of the best things that's ever happened to me. And also was the best thing that happened to the organization, because the woman they hired, somebody called Sam, who's since become a friend, was amazing. If I'd been on the panel interviewing me and her, I'd have given her the job. So,
but that is also the beauty of hindsight, I guess.
Yeah, but also here's what it made me realize is that I actually was relieved.
That says it all then, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I was a little bit embarrassed. My ego took a bit of a bruising because I was interviewed by people I'd been working with for a year and had known me longer. However, I walked away from it. I thought, well, do you know what? For the last 10 years or more, if anybody'd said to me, what's your ambition? I would have said the same thing. And I could trace that back to a conversation like 10 years before where somebody said, what do you want to be? What is your ambition? And I didn't have one. It was just like, do the next thing, do that well, do the next thing. And that was kind of how I lived my life because, that little boy had no ambition. Yeah. So I didn't have one. So I said, I want to be a CEO one day. And the reason that I said that, I guess, was because I kind of identified as a professional manager. And then you might be an assistant director and then a director. And then, then you're a CEO. And then, you've achieved the top.
Yes.
But I guess I worked on in an executive team. And I realized I didn't like it. I found it quite dull, even in amongst all of that, because that role is about bringing order, and it's about bringing certainty, and it's about consistency, and it's about guardrails and judgments and things like that. There's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of, do you know what I mean? And it's very important, and it doesn't suit my character because I'm quite creative and I like flow and I like ideas and I like to break things and change things and so on. And I realized I'd kind of propped my ladder against the wrong wall and climbed. I don't give short answers, do I?
Yeah. No, but you're saying it. I mean, that kind of position has to provide the safety and security of that space. But from what I'm hearing is you'd achieved the success, but you'd lost your way.
Absolutely. And so then I was sat there going, what now? If not that, then what? And then fate, the universe, whatever, came along, and so the CEO, who had to, say, I'm sorry, he didn't get the job. He said, let me think about it for a day or two. And he said, is there anything that we can do to support your career? And by pure chance, the day before, somebody had said to me, have you ever thought about training to be a coach? And I hadn't. But that was in my mind. So I said to him, would you pay for me to train to do some coaching? It would help the team. It would help the organization. He said, yeah. And the moment that I spoke to the woman that ended up training me, I was it. It's like I found this feels unlike anything I've ever stepped into before. And there was no way back after that.
Do you think that's also because I know this about you, that one of the reasons you're a strong and effective manager is because you're incredible at listening and then making sense, which is basically what a coach has to do.
Mm-hmm.
Say that's one of where your strengths lie.
I prefer to think of it as like my devastating good looks and charm, but yeah.
Well, obviously that as well. But us having a conversation, I know we always know it's going to be a brilliant conversation because obviously I know I'm a coach, but I know that you listen to what I say as well, reflect back and be able to carry on that conversation in a hopefully interesting way because you've listened.
Yeah, I think that is something that I've always had. And I think you and I like briefly talked about this in the past as well, in that where this comes from, I don't know. But when I was at primary school, somebody made me captain of the football team. And then why? I don't know. You look at 11 boys running around. Why did they pick me? I don't know. Did they see something in me? Or did picking me make me see something in myself? I don't really know. I was head boy of my school, which was voted for by the teachers. All sorts of things like that from early childhood. So I think I've always had something which is about, I'm hesitating to say helping others because that implies charity, and it's never been that energy with me. It's always been, how can I support you, I guess, closer to that.
Or you could look at it another way and say people see you as a natural guide.
Maybe. I don't know. The older I've gotten, the more I've got into this kind of thing as well. And it's something I like about coaching, and I like about this, how it fits into the hero's journey idea is I'm not the hero in this story.
Right.
And I love that. I absolutely love that. I love the role of supporting others. But that's not a passive thing. It's very active. And as you know, you've got to train to learn the skills and the craft of it. But you have to have that you have to have it in you that I don't know, what am I trying to say, Phil?
You want to help other people who have lost their way find a different path forward that resonates.
That's exactly it. And it's always been that. And sometimes that's like, I've always been good in a crisis, do you know the Kipling poem, If? What's that? There's a line in there about,
if other people around you are losing their heads while you can keep yours, something like that.
Yeah, blaming it on you. There's all that kind of stuff. That poem has always spoken to me. I'm like, it's not. I get it. But here's the thing. I say these things, and I think it's my character, it's my training, it's my vocation. But I don't think it makes me special. Do you know what I mean? I really just think it's just stepping into what your gifts are and using them.
And being authentic, because a lot of the time when we're lost and when we are in situations that we don't want to be involved in and we're not seeing ourselves as a hero, we act in an inauthentic way. And as soon as you actually go, this isn't me, this isn't what I want, and you step out of that, that's when you can start being that hero yourself, but also a guide to others who can follow the light that you're shining on them to help them see that there's a different way forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're wise, Phil.
I'm so wise. I won't say to you that when I was in my upper sixth, all the boys in my year voted that I would be most likely to become Prime Minister.
That doesn't.
It's a compliment. I'm not sure either way. But
I'm just going to say, you've got captain energy. You absolutely have. Yeah.
Oh, I was always captain of the hockey team, captain of the rugby team. I was deputy head at school, not head of school.
I've got that. Yeah. I went to a really small school. Tallest man in Lilliput.
So how did Hero come about then? Because obviously there's Stephen Locke Coaching. For anyone who's listening who doesn't know, obviously Stephen's got a coaching business. But this has evolved, hasn't it, over the last, say, 6 months into something completely unique. Tell me a bit more about Hero.
Oh, this is such a cool story. So I want to give a shout out to Danielle Clark, first of all, who is... who worked with me on branding, and we started in, I think, like January or February, around about in the springtime anyway. And I said to Danielle, look, I've done everything myself and I don't really know what my brand should be. I just don't know. Can you help? But I also said to her, look, I don't really care how long this takes. And I remember saying this to her, I want you to do the best work of your life. And if that creatively, and I don't mind if that takes, normally it's 3 months. In the end, it took nearly 6. And the process, I loved it, because I've said before that I'm quite creative. I am in certain ways, but I'm not very visually creative. I'm not great with color and design and things like that. But we did this work, and then the Hero thing was actually a bit of a left turn. And again, it comes back to the hero's journey. You think you've solved the problem, you think you've vanquished the dragon, and then the dragon comes back to life, or there's another dragon or whatever. So she helped me to see that the way that I work could have particular resonance with men. And that's because I think, actually, I don't really know I should ask her one day what it was she saw, but it was to do with research into customers and clients and messaging and so on. But I think it's something to do with being able to straddle the kind of masculine and the feminine in the way that I work. So I've mentioned captain of the football team. I've got a reasonable degree of athletic capacity, so I can lean into that kind of thing if I want to. I'm fairly tall. I can lean into that if I want to. But I've been through a lot of therapy and stuff like that, so I can do the
stuff.
Yeah, I can do it. I can do both sides. So the Hero thing came out of that, and it was like that would appeal to men. And I tried it, and it seemed like it was working, and then it just really didn't. And that's maybe a bit of a boring story. It's a story for another time. But I was like, oh my God, we've put all this effort in. It seemed like it was working. People seemed to really like it. And then when it came to actually buying anything, nothing, absolutely nothing. But I've learned that you just keep going, So I must have, over the summer, tried like 4 different things, and they all failed in that they didn't achieve the result that I wanted.
Don't do the word failure. It's just a step in the journey.
Exactly, yeah. So another one of my phrases that I use all the time is you never lose, you win or you learn. And I did a lot of learning and did it pretty quickly and without much damage to the ego, but, lost a bit of hope.
Thank you for sharing that as well. So I think that people actually feel that failure is a bad thing, and we don't talk about it, and it needs to be brought to the surface. So thank you.
Yeah. No, and we can come back to it if one, because dealing with failure is so important, I think. But then I couldn't forget the Hero idea. I just loved it. And then one day, I've got this office. I'm very fortunate. I've got this office in Home Firth, and something just clicked in me one day. I thought, I cannot let go. Danielle had done this design for a logo, and I couldn't let it go. But enough time had passed that I could look at it again, And all year I've been telling people the idea of the hero's journey. I've been using it in coaching. I've been using it and talking about it. And I just went, oh my God, like that's it. That's the whole thing. It's everything. That's it.
Yeah.
So I came in here. I've got a whiteboard that you can't see. And within like, something else happened as well. You did some energy clearing on me. And I came in here a day or two later and I just was like, boom, everything unlocked, everything came forward. And I totally pivoted away from what I was doing, but with, I'm not even sure certainty is like quite the right word, just a clear decision that I knew where the path needed to go or which path I was going to walk. And that was about, I don't know, 6 or 8 weeks ago. And I got in touch with Danielle. We spoke a day or two later. I showed her my plans. She was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And here we are. So now the brand is a thing. The plans for next year are huge.
So for anybody who are listening, I think this is a very clear message that sometimes you know what you're supposed to be doing, or you know which way you're supposed to be going in. You just have to actually trust your gut and believe in yourself to do it.
I think as well, you've just got, like, people say that, all right, so no, I'm going to say that a different way. There's that idea, isn't there, that you need motivation? I don't think motivation works. You need to just get up and try and get up and try, get up and try and keep going and keep going and keep going. And it sounds pat, I think, but it's true. So if you again, you know, something like the little boy back in Bedale in the 1980s, or me in January 2024, if you just said, in December, you'll be having a conversation and this is what you're going to be talking about, and this is how clear you're going to be about what you're doing, I'll be like, no chance, because I would sound like a business person. I'd sound like I knew what I was talking about. I would sound like.
So what is it, Stephen? What is the hero, if you can talk about it at all?
Yeah.
How does it differ from just coaching?
To be honest, it doesn't. But what it is, it does many things for me. So first of all, recognizing that the hero's journey is a powerful story, or like a template for a story, and it has been at least going back to the Greeks, but probably longer, because it speaks to something. It speaks to the human condition, doesn't it? That we have to set out on a quest. Life is a quest with an uncertain, set of trials that are going to come our way. And at any point we could give up, or we could try and return home, or we could retreat or whatever. But if we keep pushing on and keep pressing on and keep having faith that at the end of that journey, there's going to be, a princess or a pot of gold or some insight into yourself or whatever it is, then that's just the human condition. So, but also being able to center the client as the hero, I think is just so great for me, because it's like, it makes it easier for me to understand my role in just a way that, storytelling is really useful. But in terms of marketing and branding and so on, you can tell stories that resonate. So, a classic, instead of saying to myself, right, okay, I'm going to do a case study on a client, I'm going to tell the hero's journey that this client went through. Yes. And it just different, and it's fun, and it unlocks more in people. So it's all of that.
So if I was to come to you and I'm listening to this video and I'm thinking, it's been hard, I can't see a way through as the hero from this year. I don't know how to get out of this and to look forward to next year with hope. What advice would you give to me if I was coming as, a potential client?
So, right, the first thing I would say is the fact that you're even showing up for Phil's session means that you are on the path. So however hard it is, and no judgment here, many people settle for whatever it is. They feel that the comfort of the known, even if they don't like it, is preferable to the effort and the uncertainty of trying to change.
Yes.
So the fact that you're even listening to this, well done. Give yourself a pat on the back. Now, however, that doesn't change your circumstances, but it tells you something about yourself, that you are on the quest, that you are trying. It's still uncertain. Who knows what's behind that next mountain, or maybe like Edmund Hillary said, what do you see when you got to the top of Everest? More mountains. There's just always more mountains. But maybe there's a sacred valley you can pass through, and you can have some abundance for a while, or whatever. Maybe that's over there. But maybe it's a week away. Maybe it's a month away. Maybe it's a year away. But the fact that you're trying, well done. If you were going to come to work with me, and actually, I think it would be similar if they came to work with you, Phil, because we've got similar approaches, haven't we? I would be helping you. I'm going to sound really pompous here, but Socrates was right. Know thyself. That's the place to start. That sound pompous? Why did I say that? Oh, Phil, let's get into...
You could have just said become self-aware, but I like how you went with it anyway. It was going to sound a bit pompous.
But it's true. Sometimes often with coaching, we're talking about goals, aren't we? We're talking like, where do you want to be, or who do you want to be, or how do you want to be, or whatever. Or it's like, what do you want to stop? What do you want to get away from? What do you want to leave? What do you want to, put in the rear view mirror? But and I think you do this brilliantly, by the way. Classic coaching, somebody shows up and they go, oh, I want to be X. So in my case, Stephen, 10 years ago, I want to be a CEO. And you go to a coach, oh, you want to be a CEO? Cool, I can help you with that. And then we start working on that objective. But where's the problem with that? That was always a false dream.
What does that mean, be a CEO as well?
Yeah.
There are so many definitions, and it's just a title, isn't it, at the end of the day? Because once you achieve it, is that going to make you happy?
There you go. Happiness, yeah. So I would always start with helping somebody to like really understand who they are at this phase of life, So it's probably different when you're in your 20s or your 30s or your 40s. And there's a lot of change that happens in the middle part of life. A lot of my clients, that's where they are, probably you as well. So it's worth, a lot of people haven't even thought about this stuff in any structured way since they were at school, and the careers advisor said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you go, oh, I want to be a whatever. And then you pick your A-levels, and before you know it, you've got 2 kids and a mortgage, and you're just doing the thing, right? So, and a lot changes. You learn about yourself, you learn what you like, you learn what you don't like. So understanding that's always where I start. Like, who are you today? And sometimes we use some spiritually grounded techniques to understand that. Sometimes it's like just pure coaching. But yeah, that's what I would do.
I think for many people as well, it's going back to what you said about 10 minutes ago, in that it's just helping people to understand when they are going up the wrong wall. You said you had the ladder up against the wall and it was the wrong one. And so as soon as you put that ladder up to the right wall, it doesn't matter how long it takes. It doesn't matter which way you go about it, but at least you're going in the right direction.
Yeah. So you and I have spoken a fair bit this year about what it is to try and start a coaching business, right? We're like, and to get enough traction that you can genuinely call it like your profession, that you're actually secure in your profession. And there's been many, many, many days when I've sat here, or the various desks I've had this year, and I've sat down and I've gone, I've got no idea if I'm ever going to sell anything ever again. And if I don't, then I can't pay the mortgage, and then I've let my family down, and what do I do?
And what's giving you hope on those days, though?
But the thing is, I know deeply why I'm doing this, because I did the work that we've just described. So the know thyself bit, I did and continue to do, so that I am very certain that it's what I want to be doing. So another catchphrase that I use over and over is, you choose your hard. And there's been moments when I've like genuinely been sitting here going, right, I've got no leads. I know I should be doing some marketing, but my confidence is gone. I don't know whether that person's going to get back to me. I don't know if I've got enough money in the bank. I don't know. And then gone, yeah, okay, but this is the hard I chose.
Yes.
And when it's the hard you chose, you're like, okay, it's me. It's my journey. It's my path. And then you find the grit.
And I completely back that to the hilt, in that I think for many people, they think it's just going to be easy. But one of the first steps, I think, in working towards your own hero's journey and your own definition of success is to take radical responsibility for your actions and your choices. And when you know finally that you are going in the right direction, you can take those choices from a place of hope rather than fear, from a place of this is what I chose, this is what I wanted, rather than this has been forced upon me by somebody else.
Yeah.
And I think with any of that, it's becoming self-aware that you have choices and your choices impact you. So you can make that choice today, or you can put it off another year. I'll just stay in this job that I don't like. I'll just keep down this path, because what choice do I have? Where radical responsibility means you do step forward and make that choice.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm sounding really harsh about that, but I firmly believe that is one of the first steps into making a change.
I want to take it a little bit further. I have a massive problem. Sorry, no, I'm going to phrase this in a way that centers it on me. I refuse to be a victim. Won't. I'm not having it, And, it'd be easy to make some judgments, I guess. You look at me, I've got a professional job. I'm a white, heterosexual, middle-class man with a professional job who lives in the north of England. But I've had some tough times in the last 15 years that might surprise people, but I refuse to let that be what defines me. I won't have it. And I like to, right, don't get me wrong, there's genuine oppression in the world. Genuine. And yet there is also, on occasion, it can be the easy route to fellowhood with other people is to identify with the thing that is hurting you. And then to make that an excuse. And I won't do it. So I've gone further than you, Phil.
Well, I know your background as well, so I completely support that, because that's the other thing. Nobody knows what other people have been through from the outside. So it is everybody's own journey. But what are you most hopeful for going into next year?
So do you know what? I'm not really wired that way. Partly that's because I'm a Sunderland football fan, so there's no point in having hope because they always ruin.
Well, as an Ipswich fan, we've definitely talked about that as well. There's not a lot of hope there at the moment, is there either?
Yeah. So I have like ambitions. I have, I guess, goals. I've got things that I want to work on that I'm excited about. But I often try. I'm not always amazing at this, but I always try to be as close to the present as I can.
Yeah.
Because I find, it's another side to my practice. I mean, I've just glanced up there and it says "be better" on my whiteboard, which is a phrase I keep writing over and over and over again. And I always write it: be full stop, better full stop. And to me, it means two things. It's a little bit like of an encouragement to work harder, to remember my goals and my dreams and remember what it is that I would like to achieve. But it also means be now, just be in this, just be better at being. And so there's that. Now, I also have a view on the world where I was talking to somebody yesterday at a business meeting, and there was a group of us, and he just casually said something that lots of people would say, oh, the world's terrible right now. There's so much going on. And I'm like, I don't think it is. There's some horrible things in the news. There's some bad things happening in places around the world. And if I was there, I wouldn't be so blasé. But I'm not. Like I have food, I have heat, I have some money. I'm not rich by any, well, I am rich by some people's measures, but I can't relax in that way. But I wake up and I go, I'm lucky. You know, I am, this is what luck looks like. For most of human history, nobody had a warm shower.
No.
I get to do that.
Yeah, a lot of that is about being able to be very conscious of the present that we're in.
Yeah.
And whilst it's not very nice outside, we're in a shelter with warmth, usually surrounded by people that we love. And that's a very fortunate place to be.
Even if they wind us up. And I felt it was a bit of a waffly answer. I didn't really answer your question, but hope. The thing that came to mind that I pushed away, and I've learned not to do this, is that I hope, in this moment, my hope is that your practice starts to take off and more people benefit from what you've got to give. That's the thing that came up that I pushed away because that's not a proper answer, but that is genuinely what came up.
Yeah, I hope so too. Yeah, I feel like definitely got lots of gifts to give to the world. And I guess some final words around how people can, if they're feeling motivated by this, be their own hero after the self-awareness part. Is there any place where they should start?
So I would say you do that, and then you do some work on like, what is it you actually want? And I would always encourage people not to have an overly fixed goal, because that can get a little bit reductive, but have a look at, if you could, and I always encourage people to go like at least 18 months off into the future, go think to yourself, like, where will you be living? Who will you be surrounded by? How will it feel? What's the, who are your friends? How are you connected with your family? How are you integrated in your community? What work is filling you up? You know, and I would get people to really, really picture that and have that as a goal. So it's like, how am I going to be living in a very rounded, very complete sense when I've been through this quest and I've done this work? And then it means it's not about a job title or an amount of money or whatever. It's about much more than that. And that, you know, in coaching, we use different tools at different times, but I'm very fond of the concept of ikigai, you know, what is that? I usually remember it. If you can do what the world wants, that you are good at, that you can be paid for, that you love, right? Then in the intersection of those things, you've got a very fulfilled life. And I think there's a similar thing where if you can have really good connection with yourself, your family, your community, and the work that you do, then you're going to be living well. It will not be without its challenges. There are still going to be dragons. There's still going to be monsters. There's still going to be, you know, people that need rescuing. You're going to have dark times when the rain is lashing down and you've got to pull your cape up and keep going and you're lost in the woods, and, you know, you're going to have all of those things, but you'll have more motivation to keep going, or more of a sense of inner purpose. So I would do that. And then once you've done that, the really cool thing is you probably find that 50% of that you could be doing today.
Yeah. No, it's crazy, isn't it? It's right there under your nose. Stephen, thank you so much for being my guest. I'm going to drop into the description below this video a link on how to work with you as well. But if you do have any questions, please comment and let us know. And yeah, Happy Christmas. I'm going to finish with that one because this is the Hope series leading to the end of the year. So thank you. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you very much, Phil. I've enjoyed this.
Brilliant. Take care.